regardless of your perspective on it, it so beautifully parallels the biblical creation story, right? So God's out there and he's in the garden, right? Mm-hmm. And he's making the fish. That's day one. Day one, fish.
Oh, of course.
Day 2, worms.
Common knowledge, yep.
Day 3, dirt and clouds. Anyway, he's got this big checklist of things he has to make in the world, right?
Yeah.
And it's this big ordeal, making the world.
Yeah.
And then they call it the 7 days of creation.
Yeah.
But on the 7th day, the pinnacle of creation, the crescendo is rest.
Amen.
Let us pray. Welcome back to Friends with Benedicts. Breakfast around the world.
Breakfast around the world.
On the count of 3, let's say where we're recording from on this gut-busting episode.
Deal. 1, 2, 3.
New York City. Brooklyn, New York City. Things are crazy. We have our first ever live studio audience member.
Yes. Thank you, Bailey.
So Bailey's here. My little sister's in town. It was just going to be me and Jake. And then Bailey snuck into my suitcase.
Last minute added. Yeah, I feel like this is a lot of, maybe not a lot of firsts. It's just a lot of new things. It was very unexpected to have you come in to New York City and to have a live studio audience for the podcast. I think that's all the new things.
It's been crazy. Let's just put it that way. Well, I've never wanted to go to New York City at all. I've never even had a slight desire to go to New York City. But since meeting Jake, I've heard a whole lot about it. How good it is, how many subways there are, how many pizzas there are.
Yeah.
And then after all that, I was like, gosh, I gotta go.
We're so similar in so many ways, like scary similar. But that's one of the big ways that we're not similar is I'm big fan of cities and you're a big fan of the opposite of cities.
Yeah. Opposites attract, I guess.
Yeah. I got some big beef with you I wanted to bring up.
Oh, no.
If you're okay exposing the beef on the podcast.
I don't know if I'm okay exposing the beef on the podcast, my man. But let's do it.
So I went to Paris a while back. I got some shots. They're fine. They weren't great. I was filming by myself. I was like, man, I would probably get way better shots if I was with Shaffer. This would be way more fun. And then you went to Paris later, also alone without me. And you came back and you were like, oh, I didn't get that many good shots. Like, it was just kind of weird. Like, I didn't have great filming opportunities. And then you posted a video on YouTube that is, I'm pretty sure it's my favorite video you've ever done. Yeah.
Really?
I think it is.
Wow.
And it was so frustrating to watch because you told me you didn't have any good shots from Paris. And then you had some of the most beautiful shots I've ever seen in my life.
Well, I feel like I have a Can I be a defendant now on this on the podium?
Yes.
In my defense, I just I honestly didn't remember getting any of those shots because Paris is like New York City. It's like overwhelming. It's just hard to take it all in. Sorry, that's a stupid inside joke. But it's just so much is happening around you all the time. And especially being in another country, I just felt like my brain was going like a million miles an hour the whole time I was there. So I would go out to shoot like for a couple hours at a time. And I would come back and, you know, when you come back, you're not thinking about what cool shots I got. You're just thinking about like, oh God, now I have to order food in another language alone. And so when I got back, and again, I wasn't even going to make a video from the footage because I really didn't think I had anything. But then there was just like a big, like November happened and there's nothing to film in November. So I went back and looked through the footage and I was like, oh dang, there's actually sweet stuff in here. So it was a surprise to me as well.
Man. Yeah. Well, and then, because on top of that, and I think why it's my favorite video is not only was the Paris segment insane, but you had the most insane, like, visual storytelling, which I was just making a video centered around, like trying to use composition to tell a story. And that video did that so well too. Like with the swing set shots and the playground shots. And it was just a masterpiece. And I love it so much.
Oh, I'm glad you like it so much. I felt kind of not indifferent about that one. I just felt like, I think just because the footage was old, it felt like,
I know that
kind
feeling.
of like a mix, like a, you know, it's sort of like a quilt where you have all these random pieces you kind of put together on it, and you're like, I guess it goes together. But as opposed to like one where you really plan it out and have like shots in mind, this one felt very like thrown together. But I think the end product, I guess, kind of came together and made it feel a little bit less disjointed than I like the process, especially like linking things up with the shots from my dad. Like that, those just were like that I shot all that footage over a year ago now, so it just felt really, really weird to put those two things together. But
yeah, it's so beautiful and stuff comes together like that, because from the viewer's perspective, it just looks like he planned it that way all along.
Well, that's good.
The truth is, it's this collection of footage from all over.
Well, I usually work backwards anyway. Like I'll like put the footage there, and then like I'll like record the voiceover to the footage instead of, which is I feel like not a good habit. You know? I don't know. Maybe
it's
that's
kind of
not
the
true,
YouTube way.
Yeah, I suppose it is.
But maybe not a good filmmaking habit.
Yeah. Well, thanks for all the compliments, buddy. Yeah. I appreciate it.
Dude, there's no way anyone listening to this hasn't seen it, but...
Really?
But we'll put that in the show notes.
Are you kidding me, dude? We're going international with this one.
But
Bailey's looking at me like, you guys are so dumb.
I know, seriously. I never felt weird about doing this until we have a studio audience.
I know, where's all the giggles and the laughs?
So your video was about, what was it about?
Are you kidding me?
No.
Yeah, it was about creativity.
I loved it so much.
It was your favorite one.
It really left a mark on me. Man. I actually watched it 3 times in a row. The first time I pulled it up. Yeah.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
3 times in a row.
You really did like it.
Yeah.
I mean, other than not knowing what it's about.
I really, really liked it. But yeah, anyway, like creativity and inspiration, like where you draw it from was what the video is about. I know what it's about. And, you know, basically the gist being like Nathaniel Drew is in the video and he draws a lot of his inspiration in Paris. You get yours in a tiny town called Gunnison. I think we'll probably do another episode just talking about New York City. Yeah. But I don't know. Do you want to talk about inspiration, creative inspiration?
Yeah, I'm sure I could. I'm sure I could talk about it because when I got to Paris, that's what I was thinking too. Like that same feeling of being overwhelmed is like one that you don't get in Gunnison at all. Like you never are around so many different kinds of people all at the same time. And, you know, there were some shots in there that were really, really cool that I never could have come up with or planned in a million years. Because in cities like that, things are just happening all the time. Same with New York. There's all these things that you just could never, ever, ever plan. Like we were on a subway today and a guy starts tap dancing and a dude's playing the saxophone. That never happens in Gunnison.
Yeah.
Like that would be crazy if that happened in Gunnison. That would be the craziest thing to ever happen in Gunnison. Because we don't have a subway. But anyway, that was the thing I was feeling when I got there was like, I'm not going to be able to replicate this feeling I feel right now back home. And so the first day I was there, I was like, man, what a bummer, you know, what a bummer I live in this place that has none of these cool things. And then the second day, I felt more sort of like I got a hang of it a little bit. And then by the time I left, I didn't feel the same level of inspiration that I get from Gunnison because there are things in Gunnison that you can't have in Paris, you know, like the vastness and Gunnison is an incredible place to just be so alone because there's so much open space. And I think for me, that's where a lot of inspiration comes from, is the time I can step away, not only just to be in my room or whatever, to be like truly alone, way out in the middle of nowhere. And so by the time I left Paris, I was like ready to feel that again, you know? And then that got me thinking like, well, you know, there can be a balance. Like you can go travel and experience all these things, but I don't think you really get to choose what you're inspired by, you know? And I don't think I mean, this sounds weird to say, but I don't think I was all that inspired by Paris when it comes to like being I wasn't motivated to make anything. It was really cool to be there and to experience all of it, but I wasn't gunning to get home and edit the footage, which is obvious by the fact that I had all those great shots and it took me, like 3 months to edit them.
Yeah. That's interesting. And I feel like that's so different than most people. Or at least just maybe just in YouTube, it's so common to feel like you need to travel or go do something or have a spectacle to be inspired and make something.
Yeah.
And that's so common. But lately, like for me personally, I'm far less interested in watching people travel than I am seeing their real life or just seeing, I don't know, like, stories from their real life.
Yeah.
But that to me feels harder to find inspiration in that case.
Yeah.
Like you were just saying, for me, it's like come to New York City and I have so many ideas and I'm so inspired by all of the stuff there is to take in all the time. And that'll still spark stories I want to tell that are from my lived life, mostly back in Denver. But for some reason, the backdrop of a different place is what provides such a massive inspiration to me.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because, I mean, even while we're here, I just, it's really, really cool. And I'm really enjoying the time here. But I also am, like, so overwhelmed. And I almost feel like I'm on pause, Where when it comes to, like, coming up with new ideas and such, I feel like I'm almost on vacation from any of that sort of thing. Because I don't have any time or space to focus on anything. It's just like I described it earlier today as pinballing. You're just going from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. And to me, that's not a very good creative environment. To me, it's a fun environment, but not the kind of place that you get your best idea from. Not the kind of place I'll get my best idea from.
Yeah, that's fair. And my experience on this trip might be different in particular because I have like 3 ideas coming into it. So I'm thinking more so just about what would be some cool B-roll and C-roll to incorporate into that story.
Yeah.
So that makes it different. And this is like my 4th time here.
Yeah,
so that changes it too. I'm slightly less overwhelmed. But still, dude, just like one day out there, the mental exhaustion is like...
It's crazy.
There's so much going on at all times. You just never stop paying attention to 100 things at once.
Yeah, it is very overwhelming. That is for sure. But going backwards a little bit, I think another thing that is important to me on my channel, and I think you kind of mentioned it a little bit, I'm just not, I was in Paris and it was really cool, and I'm just not interested in making a video about how I'm in Paris,
Totally.
I would not want to watch that video because it's just, there's so much white noise when it comes to people making videos about themselves doing really cool things. And at my channel's best, I think my videos will point to things that you can appreciate on a day-to-day basis, as opposed to all these cool experiences you have the opportunity. And I feel that way when we're traveling for Fox too. Like there's so many beautiful things we get to film and shoot, and I have terabytes of some of the most beautiful shots ever that will never surface because I just don't want to tell that story about guy travels to Europe. It's just not interesting.
Yeah.
And that was probably the biggest reason I thought I wasn't going to make a video from Paris, is like no one needs to see any of this. It's just I was one of 400,000 people that month that will have that same experience,
Yeah. And that's why I think it's so beautiful the way you make videos and the way I'm trying to make videos, where you just take stories from your life and use the travel as a backdrop, if even that. I'm so uninterested now, just personally, in watching YouTube videos that are about exactly what you said. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going somewhere cool and doing all these cool, fun, crazy things.
Yeah.
So over that, I want to hear like things about you that are really personal. And then sure, if you use travel as a backdrop, great. But it's interesting you saying that. Have you ever watched, oh, I hope I don't butcher this. I think it's Aiden Robbins. For some reason, I can't remember his name right now. I think it's Aiden Robbins. I hope I'm not butchering that. But he had a really interesting perspective. He makes great videos. I was watching one of his videos.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to
Is it
think about
Aiden
a second.
Robbins?
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Friend of the pod. Just kidding.
Yeah.
He's not.
Aiden Robbins had a really interesting perspective on that travel mentality, because he was saying is in one of his videos that he doesn't like when the location is just a backdrop for a place. He feels the need to like do the place justice and tell backstory and history and all that. And I guess I only say that to say like it was really interesting hearing that, being like, wow, that's really cool, because that's the last thing I want to do is tell like the history or backstory of a place when I get there.
Sure.
I feel so much more comfortable just telling stories that I actually know.
Yeah.
And then what backs that up is just my experience or the B-roll of being in a place.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that is incredibly overwhelming. Like the idea of telling a story of a place is admirable and probably something I won't be able to do because I'm like you. It's like, that's so overwhelming.
Yeah.
But I think there is something to be said about trying to think about it a different way, because what made me decide to use the Paris footage at all is like, oh, I could basically use this footage to say you don't even need to do this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I remember talking to you when you were processing the idea of this video. And at first you're like, I don't think I'm going to make anything with it. I don't know what to do with it. I didn't get anything. And then you had that light bulb moment. And like, that's such a great feeling when you're making something, when it just clicks. And you find that puzzle piece that fits. And like, yeah. And that was your puzzle piece solution, was like.
Totally. Yeah. It's kind of a bummer of a thing to say, I guess, but it's almost like you can kind of just let the experience be a cool experience, but not make it be this big anchor that holds your soul down to anything, you know? Mm-hmm. Because for the first day I was there, I was like, Paris is going to ruin my life. It's the coolest place ever, and I'm going to wish I was here all the time.
Yeah.
And then it was over the course of 5 days learning that's not even true. And then over the course of 3 months realizing that might be worth something to say. And also being willing to admit to yourself the fact that maybe that footage really honestly, until I had the idea, I wasn't going to be bummed if I didn't make the video out of it. It was like I was ready to let go of it because I didn't have anything to say. There's a really good song. Have you ever heard Clay Pigeons by Blaze Foley?
No.
Oh, well, it's about it's basically about this old cowboy guy who needs to move on to the next town, so he gets on a Greyhound bus, right? But there's this one line in it that says, it just says, I'm going to start talking again when I know what to say. And dude, that's my North Star right now. It's like, that's when I'm going to upload a videos, when I have something to say. And in the meantime, I'm just going to shut up.
That's good.
Yeah, so that footage sat on a long period of me not having anything to say, and then fortunately it came together.
Yeah, that sounds like the most Shaffer Nickel song I've ever
It's actually
heard.
a pretty popular song. Michael Cera did a cover of it.
Wow.
Yeah, so yeah.
I feel like it used to be the case making internet videos that there wasn't such a abundance. I mean, there's always been an abundance, but now it especially feels so abundant and not oversaturated, but just everything ever has been said all of the time, all at once.
Yeah,
and
totally.
There's so much to be said for like, I don't need to just endlessly add to the noise just for the sake of adding to the noise because I feel like I need to. Yeah. And instead say something when you have something to say, something that feels good and needs to be said.
And it's especially hard to come up with something to say when this sort of general way Yeah, and you know, I'm not trying to say you and me are any sort of special snowflakes or anything.
Yeah.
But, you know, everything you create is mostly derivative from things you've, you know, consumed. But for some reason, it seems like there's this unspoken rule, especially in our niche, where the things you derive from are all the same things. You know, like people are trying so hard to be the next Peter McKinnon, or if you're even deeper into the gear hole, you want to be the next Gerald Undone, or if you're even deeper into whatever, you know what, it just feels like there's not a whole lot of room to experiment with format. And that feels like a big goal for me, is to, at the very least, have my inspiration derived from something outside of the like general whatever unspoken group of like things you're supposed to rip off.
That's where everything great ever comes from.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to do. It's really
definitely
hard
is.
to do.
And it's certainly not meant to put anyone down. It's just the way it is.
No.
It's like the amount of gear review channels that have a neon sign in the back.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just like it's just a format.
Yeah.
And that is certainly, there's nothing wrong with following a format, but it's also certainly not anything I think either of us are super interested in.
Yeah.
At our best, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, exactly. At our best. Because it's still hard to do. My last 2 videos was a fog machine review and a how to film yourself.
What other fog machine reviews are there?
I'm just saying, like, there's times where it's like, there is a time and place for like, this format has been done. I have nothing, like, maybe this is contradictory to what I just said, but there is some times where it's like, I need to at least have a template to work with just to get me going. Yeah. Like, to get me out of this hole, because I got nothing.
No, for sure.
Which is why I made a fog machine review.
Dude, fog machine review was the banger of the year.
Yeah. I just stabbed myself with a pen. Oh, man.
What's in your notebook there, mister?
Oh, let's check the notes. I already know what's next in the notes because I want to ask you about it.
Okay.
You recently took another turn in your YouTube journey and created channel members.
Yeah, I did.
Like essentially YouTube's version of Patreon, where people can pay a monthly amount to get special access to a YouTube channel. And I want to know how it's going because I've been really curious about that, interested in it, wanted to do it, but I got banned from it. So
yeah, sorry to hear about that. Well, I think to explain it first, it is essentially YouTube's version of Patreon. And I'm sure someone out there's question, maybe not here, but someone out there's broad question is, what is the difference between a YouTube membership and Patreon? And the answer from me is I have no idea. I don't know what the difference is. I've heard different people say that Patreon gives you a bigger cut of whatever people, so like say it's $5 a month, Patreon takes less than YouTube will. To me, it doesn't even bother me, or it doesn't register to me, because this has nothing, me starting it truly had nothing to do with wanting to make money off of it. Like that is honestly the truth. The truth is, like, I do think community building is one of the more important parts of YouTube, and it's also one of the coolest things to do on YouTube is you get to like actually meet people who have identical interests to you, because algorithmically you're just fed to those people a little bit. And it felt like a really cool way to make a bunch of videos that I would like to try making, which the way I do it on my membership is like I have a rule where I can't edit it. Or if I do edit it, it's just like simple cuts.
Oh, wow.
And so like the last one I did was just I hit record, I recorded the whole thing, and then I ended it and I just hit record again. Or I ended record. You know how it works?
Yeah.
You start it and stop it.
Yeah.
And so it's been really fun because it's a way I get to practice talking to the camera, being on camera. It's a way I get to interact with the people who care about it. And that's the craziest part about it is there's at least some people who care to watch that type of thing.
Yeah.
And it has pros and cons.
Okay.
So the pro is basically everything I just said, like the community building thing, you get practice.
Yeah. Well, and I think really quick before you go into the pros and cons, I think when you said, you know, you didn't do it for money, I think a big part of why you're doing it and what I'm so interested in is having this like appearance to a channel where it's very cohesive and they're all films and they're that creative thing you want to create.
Yep.
You want this consistent thing. You want your channel to be consistent.
Exactly, yeah.
And then there's this opportunity for people to get under the hood and see how it's all working and get personal access to Shaffer rather than access to Shaffer's films only.
Yeah.
They get more a look inside Shaffer's head.
Yeah, well, it's cool because I don't have to put any real thought into it. Like, I can just be honest about what I'm already thinking about anyway. And the other thing that was cool is I felt like I had people asking for something like that. You know, people asking for like a behind the scenes on how you plan a video, one of my videos. And I don't want to make a video about how to make one of my videos, not because I'm not willing to, just because I just don't want to do it. It just sounds boring.
Yeah, and you would have to put so much effort into making that video a YouTube video. You have to give it a good hook and make it visually appealing and add music.
For such a small group of people, too. So it feels like a really good answer to a lot of problems. And I think the biggest pro that I have found as I've let it sort of settle is that it's fun, because when I first announced that I was doing it, that was probably the hardest video I've ever made, because you're basically saying, hey, I think my raw thoughts are worth your money, which is a wild thing for someone like me or you who have our own little battle with self-deprecation and internal like mind battles.
Totally.
It was really, really hard to talk myself into making that video. So post announcing that I was doing it, now that it's sort of just, it exists, you know, it's really fun because anything that you say on there, someone's out, you know, they're at least going to be marginally interested in, because they paid the $3 to be there. Yeah. So I don't feel like I'm overthinking like, oh, I wonder if people are going to agree with like X, Y, or Z, or I wonder if people will judge me because whatever. It's because I know that they're not there to hate on it, you know,
like literally.
Which is pretty cool. So it's pretty fun. I've been having a good time doing it.
Man,
and I think over time it's going to really help me in the long run with being on camera in general, which isn't really my favorite thing. And I wouldn't, if I had a choice, I would not be on camera at all.
Yeah.
But on YouTube, you don't really have a choice.
Yeah.
I've learned that the long, hard way. But the cons, I think, they certainly don't outweigh the pros, but it does feel weird sort of like making your thoughts a product. I don't really love that. And also, I think for people with more self-confidence and self-value and all those sorts of things. And I don't have low self-confidence or anything like that, but I also just think like I'm just a guy, you know. Yeah. It doesn't feel all that valuable to me, and it feels weird to sell it. Yeah. When you don't feel like it's that valuable. Totally. So that whole thing is weird, and maybe just the fact that it exists doesn't help with my brain that way. Just, you know, at the end of the videos now, I'm saying thank you to the channel members. And so it's not really it's not like a secret thing, you know, it's going to be at the end of every video. Yeah.
Is it changing your approach to your main videos, or is it helping you with like any sort of push or motivation or anything in that way, or is that about the same?
I think it's at the very least, it's detracting me from making low effort videos on my main channel, because if I was to make a lower effort video for the main channel, then I would just probably feel like, well, why not just do this really quick in the members thing and just get it done with and move on? Yeah. And for growth purposes, it's probably not the best, because if I was putting lower effort into more videos, then I would get pushed out more. But I don't really care about that. So instead, I get to put more effort into better videos that will probably stay smaller than they would have if I didn't have the backlog of whatever else would have filled the gap. Man. But I don't care. That's the thing. Like, I love making YouTube videos. I just love it. And I know the feeling when I upload one that I'm not super proud of. And it's worse. It's a worse feeling than not uploading.
Yeah. Dude, well, and like when you find a band that you just love and no one knows about, it's the best feeling in the world. And you'll be so loyal to that band because you love their music and you like whether you found them small or not, like, you're going to be loyal. And, like, I don't know. I hope and I think YouTube might be going that direction where it's smaller groups of loyalty. But with the point being, like, maybe that strategy isn't going to reach the massive audiences, but the impact or the potential impact that it can have on people, I feel like, is much deeper.
Yeah.
It's like maybe it's not going to spread as far.
Yeah.
But the people it does reach is going to hit so hard and so deeply.
And what a noble goal. Like, what a cool thing to strive for. Like, what if instead of worrying about how many views and subscribers you were achieving, instead you're worrying about, I want my video to, like, positively impact someone's life.
Yeah. Totally.
What a cool goal to have. That makes it feel like something I can wrap my head around.
Yeah.
And our boss at Fox, because he gave you the book too. He gave you the practice book by Seth Godin. And the whole point in that book is essentially that creative work is a generous thing to do.
Yeah.
It's not this self-absorbed, like, look at me because I'm doing X, Y, and Z. Instead, it's like, I wanted to put something good out in the world. And so I'm just going to do it. No matter what anyone says or what anyone thinks about me, I'm just going to do it. And that feels along the lines of, like, that type of creation where you're doing it just because you want to put something good in the world.
Yeah, totally. That, man, just that thought alone, that book for sure, and that thought alone of creativity, being generous, has helped me so much.
Me too.
Like, it's difficult for me to put into words the thing you were just talking about it's not low self-esteem.
I know it's a bad word to put it.
No, yeah, totally. Like, and you didn't even put it that way. You were just trying to, like, find the right word for it. I can't find the right word either, because it's not low self-esteem. It's just
it's like a caution around public appearance, or
yeah, exactly. Or it's like I've seen what I don't want it to be like.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I'm too cautious on the other side. Mm-hmm. So because I don't want it to feel gross and self-promotional, I go too far to the other end.
Yeah.
But the point of that is, like, yeah, once you understand your creativity is generous, like, you're not forcing anyone to experience whatever it is you're making creatively.
Yeah.
But if there's 20 people that adore your work and that's it never grows beyond 20, but those people adore it, that's really generous to keep going just because it means something to those 20 people.
Yeah, and I think actually that is a huge point in the corner of making whatever, fog machine reviews and tutorials and those sorts of things. If generosity is the end all be all, if you're going for positively changing someone's life and being generous, then those are maybe the most generous videos you can make. Because you don't have to go out of your way to unlock all of these boxes for people and saying,
yeah,
this helps me with what I do. Like, man, what a way to spend your time. What a noble way to spend your time if it really is positively giving someone a new idea to go out and just make something. Because that's what's so cool at the end of all of this is, like, whether this drops you in the corner of making videos, or whether you are like Bailey, who is a really subpar artist. I'm just kidding. She's like the best artist me or any of my friends know. But, like, it's just like how making stuff is the best, and it's becoming more and more rare.
Yeah.
So I don't know, inspiring someone or enabling someone or unlocking some door for someone is a super generous, noble thing to do, which, again, if that's where your focus is, as opposed to just growth. Like, you know, I won't name any names, but right now I just had a company wanting to do a sponsored video, and I gave them my rate, and then they sent back my CPM and my average viewers, and they were like, well, this doesn't make sense because look at, you know, you don't get enough views and you don't get enough engagement, which, you know, fair point. It makes sense. But then the number that they threw back at me was, like, ridiculous, because I'm not just out here making, like, silly vlogs about anything.
Right.
You know, I'm putting my heart and soul into this stuff to try and make a difference.
We've talked about it before, this, like, balancing pendulum between the heavy creativity side and the heavy business side. Mm-hmm. And there's the heavy business side of making videos where, yeah, that dissonance makes no sense, where they throw out a money number and you're like, no, this is like a short film that I'm dumping everything into.
Yeah.
And from their perspective, it's like, oh, I just totally lost my train of thought because it's late and we've been in New York City all day. But
Dude,
I think where I was going was like, it's just insane. YouTube is a crazy platform because the films that you make on there exist directly next to someone who might make a reaction video that took them 15 minutes to film, 2 hours to edit, and then they might have such a big audience that it'll make them 50 grand.
Right, exactly. Let me just put it this way. The amount of those, and nothing against those videos. I consume those videos more than anything.
Same.
But I have watched probably, thousands of those videos that throw out a sponsor in the middle, and it just, to me, is this annoyance I have to click through to the other side of. And then at the exact same time, there are a lot of smaller channels like, it's not a smaller channel, but like CMG is one, or, these channels that are making these things these single videos that a lot of them won't even average 30K, stick with me for my entire life.
Yeah.
Your music bed video is another one of those. Basically all the videos you've done for music bed stand out as being like these ones I come back to that stand out in my memory,
Yeah.
Every single reaction quick video that gets like these huge numbers, they don't register in my brain at all. And yet I can say your music bed video and you know exactly which ones I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. That to me is worth something.
Man.
The CPI, you can throw all the analytics in the world at it, and it's not the same as being memorable and impactful,
Yes.
That to me is valuable.
Exactly. Wow. Thank you so much for taking exactly where my brain went off the rails and going exactly where I wanted to go with it.
What is that called in basketball?
Alley-oop.
Alley-oop.
Yeah.
I was going to say a layup.
Oh.
I don't know what that is.
A layup's just not a slam dunk. It's like it's like one step less interesting than a slam dunk.
All right.
It's just like gently tossing the ball.
So you were about to do a layup and I came in.
And you just like grabbed the ball and you're like, nope, Jake's not scoring. I am.
You were holding the ball and my hand came in right behind your hand.
Exactly.
I was like, little to the left, bud.
Exactly. But that's exactly what I was trying to say is like, sure, it's great if you want to do all these analytics of how much traffic the ad deal brings in, but it's just at a certain point not tangible because of what you said. Like there's a feeling that's created, and I can tell you I have never watched a reaction video twice. I watch it and it's like, oh, that was fun, and then I don't even remember it. But man, that video you made in Paris and Gunnison about creativity, I watched it 3 times the first time I pulled it up, and I know I'm going to revisit it for years.
Well, you can analytically you can measure width, but you can't analytically measure depth. Yet depth is far more valuable than any amount of width, in my opinion.
Yeah. Wow.
Suck on that, Gary Vaynerchuk.
Can we get some applause from the studio audience for that one? That was beautiful.
Thanks. I'm actually stoked I said that.
Yeah.
What a shock.
Man.
Another thing that I wanted to bring up. This is a quick thing. This isn't even a sidebar. This is sort of like when you pull off on the side of the road and semis are like whizzing by you.
Ooh.
And you're just here for a bit.
Ooh.
Because you got to take the corn cobs out of the cooler and put them in the whatever. What I feel like one of the things you've been sort of going through is you kind of were in this phase for a little bit last year where like every video you were uploading was getting like 500,000 views.
Yeah.
And then now that's like less so the case. Mm-hmm. It's more rare now. But then recently you had a short form video pop off.
Yeah.
What is the difference in the feeling between having one of your main videos pop off versus like a short form video pop off? And also just like, what's the difference between those?
Yeah, that gave me a bunch of thoughts in my head, but let me decide which direction I want to go.
Oh, and then the ones that don't have 500,000 since that like boom phase, do you like them less because they have less views?
Yeah. So let me start with that before I talk about the recent short form just an absolute mind fuck going from like making videos that you really like and you don't think anyone should care about them, but you're like, this is fun to make. I don't feel like they deserve recognition. To then going to like, whoa, these are getting way more views than I ever thought was possible. This is weird. And then coming back down in the other direction has been such a weird roller coaster, because there's been so many times where I have said and genuinely felt that the metrics don't matter to me. And that has always been at the core of it, because of what we've talked about this whole time. It feels so much better to make something that feels like what you wanted to express and feels true to you.
Yeah.
That matters so much more than whatever the metric is. And once you're not getting adrenaline and dopamine from the numbers coming in, it feels so much better to go back on a video and be like, man, I'm proud of that, rather than being like, man, I really hacked it and did it like Mr. Beast and got it. Like, it's going to feel better if you're just proud of the video.
Yeah.
So with that said, with this short I made that it exploded on Instagram, it is scary what that does to your brain when you start seeing like, whoa, it's up to like 400,000 views and something like that. And it's scary because, like I said, I know what I believe and feel, but you see those numbers rolling in and your brain instantly goes like, oh, I should jump on this. I should make more shorts. I should more fog. Like, yeah, like when it first started happening, it just, your brain starts racing of like, is this what I should be doing? And that very quickly left, where I was like, no, this is stupid and silly, and these numbers mean nothing, truly nothing. And the point is depth over width, you know? Dude, I am so tired. I'm at that point where like I have a good thought. I'm like, oh, I have so much to say about this. And then I start talking and I feel like someone's just shutting the lights off inside. They're like, well, no, all right, Jake, it's time to close it up. We're powering this thing down.
Well, I feel like it's a really good, honest to God, real world example of what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Which is that it's hard not to value the width. Like, it is very hard.
Yeah. Yeah. There's the stupid monkey lizard part of your brain, and there's the other one.
The Wall Street version of your brain.
No, that's Wall Street is also the stupid monkey lizard brain. There's the stupid monkey lizard brain.
Stupid monkey Wall Street.
And then there's the Jesse Driftwood side of your brain.
Yeah.
And the Jesse Driftwood side of your brain
is good.
Oh, it happened again.
Chick, are you okay?
Oh, yeah. The stupid monkey lizard side of your brain just feeds off of those quick hit adrenaline numbers, likes, views.
Yeah.
And the Jesse Driftwood side of your brain says, no, I need to make something that matters.
Yeah.
That's all.
You did it.
And that's just, I say Jesse Driftwood side of the brain because he's our North Star.
Yeah, he's the king of...
And he's what we always aspire to be.
Like, in one of the many ways that Jake and I are alike, we're different in the city versus country boy.
Yeah, you're pretty country.
Yeah,
for sure.
Country boy. But the one of the ways we're alike is Jesse Driftwood is exactly who you want to be, dude, when it comes to YouTube and that whole thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you asked him, he probably would be humble about it and say something funny.
Yeah, exactly.
What time do we got here?
We're at 46 minutes.
Should we try and go to an hour? Should
I don't think we have to force go into an hour. I don't have.
Did you write anything else down in your?
Oh, did I? Actually, yeah. There was.
Let's do one more thing and then we'll go eat dinner.
Well, yeah, perfect. How do you keep inspiration or like find it and keep it? I don't know. I don't know how to word it exactly, but it's just like sometimes it feels so clear and you might be very sure that like Gunnison is where you need to be and you feel inspired.
I have an answer to this.
Okay, good, because I don't even know how to ask my question.
Because, so I mean, maybe it's not necessarily how do you keep inspiration, but it's more so how do you keep the reassurance that you're going to have inspiration in the future.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're saying.
How do you know you're at least on the path to being inspired?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I have like the answer, but I think I have answer. And it actually really nicely ties back to Paris, because when I went out to Paris, the video I wanted to make, because Nathaniel Drew randomly sent me a message on Instagram and asked if I was ever in the area we should hang out. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Paris, but I'm not going to Paris to meet Nathaniel Drew without a video idea. I'm going to figure it out, right?
Oh, whoa.
So the video idea I wanted to make, he had just uploaded a video about his Paris apartment, because he had just bought a Paris apartment and he was renovating it and all this stuff. And it was big video, a long video about the whole saga and everything. And there's a part in the video, and it's such a short part. And it actually, this tiny little part of his video made it one of my favorite videos he's uploaded, because I read into it too much, I guess. But there's a part where he gets his bed into his room, and he lays on his bed, and it doesn't have music playing or anything, and he just shows that it's quiet. Mm-hmm. And he's like, when you're in Paris, it's so rare for things to be quiet. And it's such a short part of the video, and then from there he moves on to some other thing, and it's just over. And the video I wanted to make is, regardless of your perspective on it, it so beautifully parallels the biblical creation story, right? So God's out there and he's in the garden, right? Mm-hmm. And he's making the fish. That's day one. Day one, fish.
Oh, of course.
Day 2, worms.
Common knowledge, yep.
Day 3, dirt and clouds. Anyway, he's got this big checklist full of things he has to make in the world, right?
Yeah.
And it's this big ordeal, making the world.
Yeah.
And then they call it the 7 days of creation.
Yeah.
But on the 7th day, the pinnacle of creation, the crescendo is rest.
Amen.
Let us pray. But I think that's the answer, dude.
Man.
And YouTube doesn't promote rest. YouTube promotes consistency, and it promotes being some kind of ridiculous creative guy that has endless amounts of ideas. Think of some of the best musicians in the world. Mm-hmm. Their albums come out sometimes up to 7 to 10 years.
Kendrick Lamar is like such a perfect example.
Exactly. Yeah. And I just don't think you just shut your brain off for a day after the upload and then turn it back on Tuesday and start back up and make the next thing. Absolutely. You have to rest.
Dude, absolutely.
God had to rest. God made the worms, and he had to rest.
Yeah, seriously. If God has to rest after making worms, you better be resting after making a YouTube video.
Yeah. And I think the way that I know that I'm going to be able to make another video up to par with the ones I've made in the past is just that I'm going to force myself to rest.
Yeah.
Especially before I really have a good idea.
Yeah. And for me, even mid-project, it feels so wrong to do, but sometimes you just have to let a project breathe. Yep. Like you're beating your head against the wall, just like shoving a puzzle piece in that doesn't fit. And you're like, no, I have to make this work. And then all it takes is just stepping away for like a couple days and give it some room to breathe. Or just go live your life. Like go do something you love.
That definitely counts as rest. And I also think that counts as like inspiration garnering, you know?
Yeah.
Because so many of my best ideas come when I'm just sort of in everyday life or just consuming something like so random.
Yeah.
That's when you find those things that unlock your brain. But if you're always just in like overdrive, trying so hard to find something to make a video about, then it rarely works out. And I don't know what this means, but the end of that story is I didn't even make that video.
Yeah. Wow. But I think the like lesson there is that you did give it that room to breathe.
Yeah.
And and as a result, you made my favorite video you've ever made.
Well, that's awesome, because I think I was bummed when I had to sort of abandon that idea, and I had to abandon that idea because I thought we were going to have more time to film. And so probably maybe someday I'll still make that video. But yeah, it wasn't until I was able to rest and walk away from it that I got the clarity that I needed to finish it.
Yeah.
But dude, I don't worry about, because I used to have that feeling, like worrying about like, well, what if I just had my last good idea? And I feel like as I've sort of incorporated the idea of, for the next week, I'm not even going to think about thinking about a video. Then when you get back into it, like if you love it, you're going to eventually get back and just be like, oh, I have this idea. I have to make it. Very rarely, I feel like, do I go through a period longer than a week or so where I just do not want to make anything. I at least after a week will get the feeling of like, I would love to go film something. Yeah. And that's that little spark, I feel like, that proves your soul still wanders. That was for Bailey. Bailey cringes at everything I say anyway. So then when I'm talking about videos and my soul, and it's beautiful. Bailey and I were talking. Oh yeah, really quick. Bailey and I were talking the other day about how maybe one of the worst words is the word beautiful.
Oh no. Yeah.
Well, it less so to do with the connotation or the denotation. The connotation is just it's like the way it comes out of your mouth, beautiful.
So like just the noises of the word.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. It's kind of like when you say poop.
I like the word poop because when you say the word poop, your mouth does the same motion your butthole does when it poops.
Yes.
It's just like that.
Wait, how is it like that? So when you say the word beautiful, your mouth says something beautiful?
Poop. Wait, so what?
Well, by that logic, if you say the word beautiful, then your mouth is doing something beautiful. Or are you saying when you say beautiful, your mouth is pooping?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, that makes sense.
I'm saying it's similar to saying poop. Poop and beautiful are basically the same word.
Poop and beautiful are the same. Poop is beautiful.
Yeah, I did get really scared when you first said that because basically
I know. I was like, I'm going to send Jake into a spiral.
The whole start of my YouTube channel is centered around like making my life more beautiful and appreciating the beauty around me.
The poop. Just replace it with poop every time you say it.
I think beauty might be worse than
life
beautiful.
Is poop. If you appreciate the poop around you.
Oh, dude, I'm at that. This is why we started recording podcasts in the morning.
Yeah.
So I just get delirious by the point of the day.
Yeah. Just to wrap that whole thought up, though, I wish there was a different word. Because
of beautiful?
Well, yeah, I wish there was a word that meant the exact same thing. Because there are a lot of adjacent words like magnificent and extravagant, but there's not one that's the same thing, you know?
Oh. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not saying that I don't. I'll definitely still use the word, you know, but it's just like I wish it was a different word. I wish corduroy meant what beautiful means, because corduroy is a sweet word. Yeah. Not quiche.
Yeah, I'm
You're
on board
on team
with
quiche?
You do like quiche or don't like quiche? Quiche is a sick word. Corduroy fits pretty well with corduroy.
Yeah, I guess that's right. What about ractar?
That sounds scary, not beautiful.
Well, yeah,
because beauty is scary.
Exactly.
Hopefully, the human language will continue to evolve to the point where
Why do we only have one word, word though, you know, for the like what a big word, what a big thought to only have one word that means that.
That's true. It's
because we have road and we have street, and it's the same thing.
Yeah, and avenue.
And we have avenue.
And circle. And place.
And place. And they all mean basically the same thing.
Place is the worst one.
Yeah, that place is the worst one. Or business loop. You ever like the I-70 business loop? The fuck does that mean?
Oh, yeah. I do know about that one.
Crazy.
There are a lot of synonyms.
Yeah, okay, Bailey's got a list of synonyms. Yeah, but it has to mean like the same thing. Give me one that means like the same thing.
Give us the best synonym for beautiful.
Well, the first one's attractive.
No, attractive is like...
Yeah, that's like one specific type of beautiful.
It is.
The word was attractive.
Yeah, attractive is a little more... It's got a little more thirst trap energy than...
Yeah.
Pretty and handsome, no.
Handsome.
Good looking.
Good looking.
The sunset was good.
Dude, the difference between good looking and beautiful is unreal.
The wedding was good looking. I could have cried. It was so good looking. There's only one.
Picturesque.
Picturesque? It's not even close to the same. That's like for like going to the Grand Canyon. How about this? So we're trying to record at least one more episode while we're in New York City. Let's both try and come up with the new word that means beautiful.
Good idea.
And then we'll come back next time and we'll have a new word.
Stay tuned for the new beautiful.
Beautiful 2.
And
the squeak word.
Also, on that one, we might talk a bit more about New York City.
Oh yeah, because there's going to be a lot to talk about. We already could record a whole episode about just the
and
vibes
we've been
in
here
New
for
York City. We've been for one full day. Yeah,
we got here at night. Thought we were just like gonna eat food and go to bed, and we ended up being out until 1 a.m. or something.
Yeah,
and
probably is gonna happen again.
Probably gonna happen again.
I feel like this one went well. I feel like the warm up. Maybe we like really eased into it on this one. I feel like things got real juicy at the end.
Yeah, it was a slow ramp up because that's it. My brain quit.
We gotta get you
quit.
We gotta get you some pad thai, brother.
Yeah, we do. Thanks to our studio audience.
Thanks to our live studio audience.
Bailey Nickel
from New York.
Do you have anything you'd like to plug on the show? Any shout outs?
Instagram Bailsos, BAILSOS.
Bail SOS for the best art. Amen.
If you don't like this music, you don't be listening to it. You know, I'm just a dude that you know, or something similar. If you don't keep it real, then you go somewhere but here. Cause you know, we're only losing control just for a minute. Oh.